Hello and welcome to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Alex Rondinan and welcome to the program. White privilege is a totally inappropriate and inadequate theory that doesn't help us explain racism or how to fight it for racial justice and a racism-free future world. And just because you keep saying that you have white privilege doesn't make it so. The absence of suffering is not a benefit. If your neighbour's house burns down and yours doesn't, you haven't benefited from it. Yes, your neighbour has suffered, and this is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, but in no way can it be suggested that you benefit from it. The same goes for racism. Blacks and Latinos suffer racism, and that makes their lives miserable and horrible and painful. But whites don't gain from this. That doesn't magically equate to a benefit. It's not like whites are given money, jobs, products, etc. because of the racism that blacks and Latinos suffer. The norm should be not suffering from discrimination, in which case blacks are the sufferers and whites are not. The focus of our attention is therefore to raise blacks up to the level that whites already are, so that they no longer suffer from discrimination or experience racism. In other words, whites don't suffer from racial discrimination, and by creating a future racial justice world, neither would blacks or Latinos. That's how the traditional view of anti-racism has always been. But the white privilege theory is the other way around. Racial suffering is the new norm. It is considered proper and normal for you to suffer this kind of misery. Whites, the ones who don't suffer from racism, are elevated to a higher status because of the logical consequences of this. The word privilege implies a benefit, as though all whites, including poor and working class whites, gain some kind of benefit from the existence of racism. This is straightforwardly not true. In fact, poor whites and poor blacks can work together and unite to fight for a common cause, such as getting pay rises, keeping cops accountable, getting rid of the death penalty, etc. There are a group of whites who do, indeed, benefit from racism, such as those who run and manage the prison industrial complex, those who benefit from hiring cheap Latino workers, those who make money off the drug trade, etc. Those whites benefit from racism, but this has much more to do with their class than their skin colour. We should be fighting against corporate capitalism and institutionalised racism then, not going on and on about white privilege. The latter is merely a distraction from us properly doing the former. There's another serious problem with the white privilege theory. It changes the subject of the narrative. In the old days, in the 1960s, the protagonist of racism were blacks and Latinos. They were the victims of racism, and it was their struggle that sought to break down racial barriers. The great heroes of black liberation and Latino justice were from that era. White privilege theory twists this the other way around. Rather than us focusing our attention on the sufferers of racism and the fighters against it, we focus on the white people who have guilt that they aren't also suffering from such discrimination. We need to go back to the militant anti-racism teachings of Malcolm X. He didn't waste his time with notions of white privilege. He put all his focus on getting blacks united, working together, and fighting for a common cause. That is, racial justice. And for those left-wing whites who supported the black struggle and wanted to help, Malcolm was more than happy to have them as allies. And that's all the time we have for today. You've been listening to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Alex Rondinan. Until next time, goodbye.